It's three guys who combined to play 15 seasons in the National Football League trenches. Well, two guys. And Mackey, who didn't do shit. This is the O-Line Committee.
Uh-oh, Booney. Our adult presence is gone, and so we may get canceled today on the O-Line Committee. We'll see what happens. Yeah, Jeremiah's doing some agent things, but we got the Rhino in the house. We got Alex Boone.
He's doing what? Some agent things? God, what an idiot.
He's just flying around. Is he doing his pro day week, right, for him?
He's doing pro days, yeah. He goes to pro days.
He texted us last night all jealous. He's like, are you guys going to record tomorrow morning without me? Yeah. I'm going to be on a flight at 5:15 a.m., so I guess I can. I guess I can join you guys. Yesterday,
he was at Christian Boyd's, who probably the biggest draft or combine snub, but today he's going to Xavier's, and so he's out of commission. But I miss Jay already,
dude.
We're gonna get in so much trouble today. He's not here
do
to
some mics in his honor. We'll do some dumb football questions.
By the way, before we can even do anything, we got to ding him for not being here. That's a fine. Okay, that's a late fine. 2, there are no fines today. You realize that, right? Like, if the ledger's not here, there are no fines. If there's no one to write them down, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Nobody can get in trouble. It's gonna be amazing,
dude. Before we get to mics, this is such a crazy season for there might be audience that's new here. Maybe you just discovered the O-Line Committee, and we appreciate that. Click the like button, the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We're inching our way toward 20,000 subs. Jay's doing his agent thing. You have an offensive line training company. This time of year, what is a day in the life of Alex Boone like?
It's
what you're in the gym, you're training. You share as much as you want, but you're literally training some of the top young offensive linemen, and you're building this company. What is a day in the life of the Rhino like these days?
You got to pick the day. It depends on what day it is, because some days we wake up and do this. Some days we wake up and we lift, and then right away we have to take Johnny to school, and then after that it's right to work. So it kind of sucks because I have to go north, and then I have to go south and east. So it's a long hour drive commute in the morning, and then when we get there, it's train. Depending on the day, depends on what we do, depends on what we're thinking about, what we're talking about, what we're watching on film. After that, we'll normally go over and we'll meet with Michael Kiley and see if he has anything to talk about, or Bill or Eric. Yesterday, we started talking about Brute's going to have to buy a building soon. This has been happening.
The Empire.
They came over yesterday and they were like, so we found a warehouse. We're excited. You ready for this? And I was like, been asking for 2 years. But am I ready? What a stupid question. So we're actually going to get what we want soon. And that's going to be even more exciting, because then the boys are really excited to grow. But this is the funny thing. After 2 o'clock every day, everybody knows, after 2 o'clock, I shut off and I become a dad. No matter what. No matter what we're doing, you can never get me after 2 o'clock. It just can't happen, because I have to go pick up kids from school. I just got my 8U black softball team. So I'm the head coach of that. I'm the assistant coach of my son's 12U. And then we both kind of help out my other daughter. But her coaches are great, the 10U team, so we love them. So it's basically softball and baseball now for the rest of the night. And that's what it is all day. Dude. I know, it's insane, dude.
You're coaching baseball and softball, right? You're not just standing behind the chain link fence. Are you a third base coach?
No, I'm the head coach.
But do you have do you give the signs? Are they old enough to have,
No, that team?
Do they steal bases and stuff?
No,
or is it too
no, my wife is normally on third, and then to Coach Dez, who's my assistant too in football, is on first, and he is the best, because if you don't make it to first, Dez is going to crush you. And it's funny because Dez is the fastest person I've ever met in my life, and he's still the fastest person, and he races the kids, and it's insane how much faster he is than them. And I'm like, wait, what? And so that's why he's the first base coach, because he just knows if you're giving it enough or not, and he's really smart.
So take football off the board, because you coach. I've watched you. I watched you coach a championship football game.
That's right.
Fall.
You were at the
awesome,
championship.
Man. You guys beat some team 48-3 or something. It's bad.
0. It was 0.
It was 0. I thought they got a garbage time field goal or something.
No, not on my defense. Not happening.
So we're taking football off the table. What is your favorite youth sport to coach? Because you're a hockey guy too.
No, softball guy though, all the way. Okay. Tank tops, sunny shades, cute little girls, and they're having a blast. It is so fun, and it is hard though at times to try, because it's a nerve-wracking sport. because when you're talking, you have to have a rule that all bats are on the ground, like all bats are touching the ground. Because we've had a few. That's the hardest thing about coaching. It's like nerve wracking when you don't know what's going on behind you, and you turn around and a bunch of girls are just swinging bats, and you're like, "Hello, ladies, what are we doing?" "I'm sorry, coach. Stop it now."
You're going to take
Like,
something.
it just drives me nuts. But I love it to death, and it's fun because when you get to go around at like different terms, we get to go to like Osseo. This year we're going to Cottage Grove. I'm taking the girls to the east side of the town. It's going to be great.
Oh, the eastern suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
About to crush. So much fun. And we have fun. I make the girls cheer really loud. I make them do big spirit fingers at the end of the game. And we crush.
Wait, what are spirit fingers? Show me spirit fingers.
After the game, you do the spirit tunnel.
Oh, like the little, like the jazz.
Yeah, they all go like this, and the girls run through it. Super fun. So last year we were C division. Now we bumped up to a B division. We're super excited. We were first years last year, and it was. I swear to God, Mackey, it is so cute sometimes to watch these little girls swing these bats. It makes you like you're just dying inside, but you love them to death, and they're hustling, and you're like, this is so fun, and it gets really competitive, and you and the other coaches are kind of going at it. It's a lot. It's a lot.
We may need an O-line committee field trip to a softball game sometime here.
That's another thing. Summer. I make all the boys in the gym come constantly. Like, I'm always like, hey, you guys have to come cheer these little girls on. And like in return, I'll always like take them to lunch or something or take them to dinner. But it's fun because there's times where like these guys will show up and these little kids are like, who's that? Oh my God, he's so big. And you're like, oh, that's J Mike. J Mike's the man. Like, it's just so fun to watch. And plus it's great attitude. Yeah. Great attitude.
Dude, I'm in on
you're coming.
A field trip at some point.
You're definitely coming for sure. We're going to do an emergency press conference at one of them.
Okay, one more thing, day in the life of Boone here, and then we'll get to some mics here. So some free advice out there, because we do have offensive linemen. There's high school kids, there's college kids that do consume this podcast. Give one free piece of advice for young offensive linemen. If it's off season, you're training, you're trying to get better, trying to make varsity, whatever you're trying to do.
It's funny. We were actually just talking about this in the gym, and I was actually talking to somebody with the Colts because they called to ask about a couple of the guys in the gym, and they wanted to know some things. And me and this guy started talking, and I swear to God, me and him had just had the same conversation with our sons. And his son, I think he was older. He was obviously like one of the best in the country, right? Like, he was telling me, I was like, wow, that's really incredible. He's like, yeah, man, but you know how it is. It takes a lot of work. I was like, dude, it does. And that's what's kind of annoying is you have to keep repeating the same thing to the same kids constantly. And you have to keep reminding them that it's a grind. I'm kind of sick of reminding people how much of a grind it is. And I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm going to be a mute about this. And I'm just going to see who naturally works the hardest. Because like the guys in our gym, they don't fuck around ever. They know there's no messing around because we tell them constantly, hey, we don't have time to dick around. We got a lot of stuff we got to learn. There's no more time. We have them for 4 more weeks and then they're all gone. That's it. And then the first impression is up. And that's what, like, it makes you so nervous because you're constantly having to tell these younger generation kids, like, hey, you better get ready to grind, dude. You better get ready to love to grind. Like, Mackie, how many times can you continue to say the same damn thing over and over? Like, I remember I was told one time, if you don't like to work, this is the wrong job, dude. It's just not for you. I didn't need 10,000 people to tell me the same damn thing over and over. Like, I got it after the first guy said it. Hey, if you don't like to work, don't come here. Okay, got it. I like to work, though. Okay, come. Like, these kids are like, no, coach, I'm going to be okay. Even my own kid at times. And that's the hardest thing is, like, when you're trying to coach your own kids, because they're like, okay, Dad, you're an idiot. And I'm like,
dude, isn't that funny?
But I'm not, Johnny. And
I played the NFL for a decade.
Johnny trusts me a lot. Like, he'll listen to me and we work really, really well. But at times when it comes to that early factor, and I'm like, hey, this is one of those things that's teaching you young to learn to wake up early. Like, you do it at a young age and then eventually it becomes part of your routine. And then you kind of have a leg up on at least 50% of the world. If you get up at 6 a.m., you're up probably earlier than 70% of the fucking world at this point. That's why I'm like, Johnny, this is just such an easy thing to do. And you know how the kids are in the morning. So tired. I know.
Dude, it is amazing how, like, what do you remember how old you were when you started getting up early on your own without somebody?
I had a different situation. I grew up with my grandparents.
That's true.
So when my grandpa was like, yo, it's time to get up, I was like, you got it, bud. I loved hanging out with him, and we had the best time. So I never complained about waking up. But that was one of the things that I'm glad you brought that up, because it spawns me into this. There's a lot that these kids don't understand that they're fighting, right? Like they're out here and they're like, I'm going to be the best because my dad wants me to be. I wanted to be the best because I wanted to make somebody really, really proud, and I wanted to piss somebody else off. Like I wanted to bury him deep. So I was like, dude, you guys have no idea how much hate I play with, right? Like you're out here to have fun, and I'm out here to hurt somebody. Like there's a difference. If you don't rise to my level now, you'll never beat me. You will never even come close to me because you have no idea how hard I'm playing. You're just here to make your dad happy and your mom, oh my God. I'm out here because I'm pissed. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference in how we play. And that's what I'm trying to tell the kids early is you have to have a reason you're out here, because there's some kid right now that you don't even know that's working 10 times harder than you because he is so fucking mad at somebody. You just don't know that kid yet. He's there because I was that kid. And you guys all thought, oh, this kid comes from a good life. And it was like, no, dude, it's the exact opposite. And that's why I'm here, because I don't want to make everybody back home disappointed anymore. Like I'm going to be the one that gets out that's like, nah, I'm different. I'm really different because I learned at a young age. I tell my kids that because they're constantly, Coach, I'm working really hard. I'm like, but you got to work harder, dude. You got to constantly keep feeding in the back of your mind that this isn't hard enough. There's more. Even if there's not, you have to tell yourself that. That way the next lift becomes even harder. Like it's just so hard to like get through to these kids at times because they don't understand the seriousness of it. When you're like, guy's going to make $260 million. You better be working really fucking hard, right? Like they're like, I bet he is. I don't know that he is, but we'll see, right?
So get up early, have an inner fire that burns for some reason, and spirit fingers. Those are the three keys. Spirit fingers. The three keys to making.
And tank tops in the summer. That's it. There's
and
4.
Tank tops. 100%. I just one thing on the get up early front. I used to be like high school and college, especially college, because I discovered. Now I was never an athlete. Like I was a baseball player in high school, but like not like a college athlete. But I discovered online poker in college. This is back in like 2002, 3, 4, before the United States sort of put the kibosh on online poker. And that was my thing for probably 3 or 4 years. I was like, I launched a poker tour in my early 20s with a business partner, and I paid rent money for a few years playing poker. And
Which
stayed
is awesome,
up.
By the way.
It sounds awesome.
No,
it's
it is
a huge mental grind, and you go through like weeks at a time where you're losing money because it's volatile and you're
probably pissed, like
stressful.
Really pissed. Oh, that you're right. That's got to be nerve-wracking as shit.
You're also like literally taking money from other people to pay your own rent and your own groceries and stuff.
I find that awesome. Like you know what it is nerve-wracking when you don't get that turn on the river and you're like, shit.
Look at you talking about the turn.
Rent is not getting paid this week, boys.
Dude, I remember one time. Well, I'll get back to the staying up late part, but I remember one time I was sitting in a live game. I was probably 21 years old, 20 or 21. I was 21 because I was about to go to Vegas the next week, and I probably had like $2,000 to my name, like as a college kid, like checking account. And I remember sitting in a game with a bunch of like media salespeople that I used to play in at a country club. It was Oak Ridge Country Club in the I think it's in Hopkins area of the Twin Cities here where you and I live.
I love Hopkins, by the way.
And I had I think it was like 2/3 of what was to my name in the middle of a table on a bluff, thinking like I knew it was the right play because I knew the guy had nothing, but like if the guy calls, like I lose 2/3. Like so it's very stressful when you're 21 years old and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to my parents or whatever? But I remember, dude, I would stay up till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock every single morning because that was the best time to catch people online. Because at the time you could put $50 or $100. Anyone could just come home drunk from the bars, and I would sit there stone sober at like 2 a.m. and take people's money. And I remember thinking to myself, I am never going to get up. If I ever have to work a job that requires me to wake up before like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, just end it, man. Like there's no way I can get up this early.
To be fair, Mackey.
You get older and you become
That's what I was gonna say. When we were all in college, who's like, God, I'm gonna wake up every day at 5:30 and crush
And grind my ass. Yeah.
No, the only time we were up early is because we had to be up early. Like, it wasn't like, hey, we got a day off, let's wake up at 5 and go work out. Like, it was like, oh my God. But it's one of those things. It's funny you say that, because I know what you mean by like when you're sitting there and your stomach is like turning in knots. It's crazy how we had the same exact feelings, just in different situations. It just reminds me of a 3rd and 10. And all of a sudden the quarterback comes up and points his hand to the left and he's like, yeah, no, we're not sliding to you. And you're like, and all of a sudden you're just, dude, everything's in your gut. You swallow your heart. I remember that exact feeling where you feel like your heart's going to come out of your chest and you're like, this is a lot. I don't know that I can continue to handle this. And then all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, it's over. Isn't it crazy that after 10 seconds, you're like, wow, that was a rush.
And now there's another one and another one and 55
I want to do it again.
more.
Yeah, that's the problem, is you can't stop. We're adrenaline junkies.
So, dude, let's do some mics here. Why don't you actually start with your big signing,
my big dog
from the South out east. Let's start with go ahead.
This was kind of interesting to me. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna have to mic him first because he's one of my dudes. And sad to see this guy leave Dallas. That was what's surprising to me. I guess I didn't see it, but now I do. Tyron Smith to the Jets on a 1-year deal. Dude, I'm excited for him, especially because here's a guy who's been doing it right for a long time. Long time. Now I'm excited because putting him with Aaron Rodgers kind of excites me. I think this guy is one of those guys that deserves a good time and a good laugh. And he's been doing it so hard for the last couple of years. But when you talk about the addition of Tyron Smith to your offensive line and how much that's going to add to you, and the comfortability that Aaron Rodgers has, that this is going to be protecting his blind side. Not only that, because he's phenomenal in the pass, but he's also phenomenal in the run. And he fits both really well. They've obviously been a very big zone team for a long time, but now they've been adding that gap duo power scheme. I know, dude. Talk dirty to me. Like, I'm really excited about this. The only thing that's weird is I looked at the contract, and it's just funny because it's a mad range. It's a 1 year, 6.5, but it has escalators up to 20. And it's like,
how does an offensive lineman, is it playing time?
Yeah,
because you for a wide receiver or a quarterback, you can say, like, if he gets to yards, catches, right? Sacks, studies. Defensive linemen get sack bonuses.
For O linemen, it's
like
a lot
pancake
of percentage.
Bonus.
Yeah, it's percentages, and a lot of that is because he has the last couple of years been a little bit dinged up, and I think that's the one thing that obviously this team, especially after last year, right? You talk about Aaron Rodgers, 4th play of the season. They're going to CYA themselves for a couple of years. They're going to be like, everybody's taking low discounts to maximum high raises with incentives, like, just because the number one accidentally had a problem and now we're nervous about everybody else, which makes sense. But at the same time, the addition of grabbing Tyron Smith right now, in my opinion, is fucking huge. It's going to be huge for this offensive line. Got some young players on this team that need somebody to just kind of kick them around a little bit and be like, hey, come with me. The weight room's this way. Like, I used to love guys like that. Hey, stupids, weight room's this way. Let's go. They'd be like, wait, what? But yeah, go with him. Don't.
Well, and we did. It might have been toward the end of the summer, a few months ago. We did a breakdown of Tyron Smith.
Yeah. I think I learned episode.
More. Was it?
Yeah, it was. Because, dude, I mean, what a guy. Talk about doing it right every time. The most lethal strike. I mean, so those that don't know, Tyron is one of the most ultimate technicians. Like, in the scheme of sports, there's technician who do it right every single time the same way. Like, they never fall out of skew, right? And then you got your other side, your complete freaks, your Darisaws, your Trent Williams, your guys that if you ever just catch completely off the ground, they're still going to murder you. You don't know how. Like, it seeps through their pores. It's awesome. But yeah, Tyron is on the other side. He's
the most, like, I learned more watching you guys break his film down, just in terms of. Now, obviously, it helps to be, God, what is he listed at? 6'5", 325 pounds, and be technically meticulous. And he's literally like one arm leveraged
the whole time.
You know, some of the most ferocious edge rushers. So what does this mean for, like, right now, today here, as we record this on Tuesday, March 19th, the Jets are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. According to FanDuel, the Jets have the 11th best Super Bowl odds. So they're kind of like I mean, they're in the playoff bracket, but they're not at all on the level of the Chiefs in the AFC, the Ravens, the Bills, according to the so-called experts, the odds makers out there.
Scribes and pundits. Yeah, no,
the scribes and pundits. Yeah,
I think a lot of that comes off of what happens with Aaron, right? Like, what's he going to look like when he comes back, and how does he do? If he plays really, really well, here's a guy that's going to be able to protect your blind side for hopefully the whole season. Now, that's another thing is, can he play the whole season? And that's one of the things that, like, you kind of, when you become a veteran, you start to understand why guys miss games here and there. And you're like, man, I am really beat up right now. And you're like, if I could just get a quick hot, like, I remember guys would have like broken ribs and the coaches would be like, hey, listen, we think we should be fine this week without this guy. We're just going to chill him out for a little bit. And you're like, oh man, that's fine. But if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a huge addition for this offensive line. Like, you talk about a guy that does it right every single time, but then shows up in the run game, which to me is another thing that's so unusual. Like, normally great passing tackles aren't always the best run blocking tackles, but there's a guy who can do both things. And that's what this team needs. Somebody that, like I said, can hold the confidence of Aaron Rodgers to stand back there off a massive injury and be like, I don't have shit to worry about. And then all of a sudden I can hand the ball off and still have a guy that can just create a crater in the side of anything. Like, I've seen him run downfield. He's one of the most graceful guys running, and he just murders people. And it's so fun to watch. And this is what New York needs right now.
Yeah, they just need adults in the room, man. That's kind of what it feels like. And some of the stuff that, I don't know how much credibility you put into the Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman essentially wiggled his way out of New York and then went on a bunch of podcasts after going to the Chiefs, saying that there's a bunch of dudes in there that aren't serious, from the coaching staff to the players. And it kind of felt like Aaron Rodgers came in, and Aaron Rodgers is a whole separate conversation. I mean, there's the health side of it. Then there's also the hypocritical side of, he gets up at that podium and talks about, if it doesn't have to do with football, we need to flush it out of the organization. And now all of a sudden, like, he's on conspiracy theory podcasts, and he's maybe going to run for vice president. Like,
I know, stop
okay,
it.
Dude, you're a huge hypocrite. But like Mecole Hardman, who's been on championship teams, basically went in there for 5 minutes, sniffed around, and was like, whoa, unserious franchise, unserious coaching staff, unserious teammates. I need out of here in a heartbeat. And at least, like, not that Tyron Smith, I mean, because the Cowboys, you could argue, have some things that they need to clean up too, but it feels like an adult in the room at a huge, important position that also protects Aaron Rodgers' 40 years old Achilles injury blindside, right?
Absolutely. And not only that, but like I said, you have a young offensive lineman. Obviously, like, what was it, last year they drafted Joe Tippmann. They still have Alexander, the USC. Trying to think. Can't think of his name right now. But you talk about adding a guy like that to a room with young players, years 1, 2, and 3. How much of an effect is he going to have on that room and the ability to come in and be like, listen, this is how we've been doing things for a long time. And he was one of the first to really get paid. And that's why when he comes in and says, no, we're going to do it this way, you're like, yeah, you got it. Whatever you want.
Elijah Vera Tucker, you're thinking.
Elijah Vera Tucker, sorry. And that's why when you talk about adding a guy like that to the room, that's what you're adding. You're adding that up. This whole moxie of Tyron Smith, which is, we do it right every single time, and we're massive weight room guys. Like, we're always in the weight room, we're always in the film room, we're always on the field doing skill. Like, that's what you're trying to lead these young players to become. What better than to bring them in, especially when you can get a guy like that at $6.5 million? Like, absolutely, I'm bringing him in.
Also, dude, how much? Because if you look at that team right now, obviously the defense. And there's going to be some, it's hard to keep a defense because you're relying on 11 guys to stay healthy, to stay under contract. It's a system, but I don't think their defense is going to fall off the cliff. Like, they're going to have a good defense, at least, let's say top half of the league defense. And then you look on offense. If Rodgers is healthy, Hall of Famer. Breece Hall, one of the best running backs in the NFL.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, one of the most dangerous receivers in the NFL. How much does, now there's like, adding Rodgers, the upgrade from Zach Wilson to Rodgers is one of the biggest upgrades in the league. How much does upgrading from one of the worst left tackle situations to maybe one of the best if Smith stays healthy, how much does that change a team? How many win? Like, if you're a 6-win team, it's hard because they were without quarterback and a good left tackle. But how much does upgrading that much at left tackle change the outlook for a team?
Dude, it's huge. It's huge, not only for the confidence, but of the offensive line, but what he's going to bring for these guys and how much he's going to teach them and the road he's going to make, basically walk them down. Like, we're walking down this road. We're going to do it like this. Like, I'm telling you, you don't understand, but I've heard stories about how it goes in other places and how guys work really, really hard and how bad they want it. And when you bring a guy like this into a team that needs someone like this, it's going to be huge, because you're right. Aaron Rodgers at times is the silliest dude on the planet. Like, the biggest hypocrite at times. Like, we're all Jets. I might be the vice president. I might not. You're like, dude, shut up. Stop it. Could you imagine being in that room with him? Like, guys, listen, I have an opportunity to leave, be the vice. That's right. Call me vice. Like, I would almost be like, you got to go. You got to do that, too. That's
I'm
awesome.
going to need Tuesdays off, just like Kirk Cousins. I mean, Tuesdays.
Listen, I can be vice on Tuesdays.
I saw this article, and I just saw the headline, I guess. I think it was Awful Announcing, came across social media, and the headline was something like, Aaron Rodgers thinks everything is a conspiracy. And I'm making light of some of it. It's like but he literally, like, the last year and a half or 2 years, hey, just so you know, I'm down to explore a good conspiracy theory. I don't know if you've seen. Do you ever watch Netflix, Booney?
Yeah.
There's a series that came out, The Octopus Murders. It's about the government agencies like the CIA, the FBI, and the the surveillance agency, the NSA.
Like blue ring octopus?
It's like the octopus is figurative. It's like the 8 tentacles of government having their hand in cover-ups and things, like going back 40 or 50 years. It's like probably a 5-part series. It's I worry about the filmmakers. I do.
I know.
But my point is, hey, I'll read up on a good conspiracy theory. I'll watch a good Netflix documentary. I think you got to be careful about the guy in your life or the gal, the friend, the family member, like your weird cousin Vinny, that thinks literally everything is a conspiracy theory. And I feel like we've reached that point with old A-Rod. Like, dude, maybe just like reined it in a little bit on the conspiracy theory stuff, guy. Just calm down.
I agree with you 100%. And I don't even want to get into it because some of it gets really crazy and really tough. But at the same time, I agree with you. Like, at some point, you got to stop, because you're going to bring a lot of people into this that are like, dude, don't bring me. I don't want to talk about this.
I just want to play football. I just
want to play football. And you're in New York. You are in the toughest market for any media. I can't imagine what this season's going to bring.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Okay. On the other side of this here, here's my first mic.
Yes.
The Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh.
Jerry Jones.
Ooh.
So I just pulled up a list. I was curious. I'm like, it feels like the Cowboys have been kind of quiet since we last podcasted. Okay. I know they didn't really make much of a splash on day 1 of free agency. And then, day 2, we recorded on day 2, and they hadn't really done much, if anything, by then. Like, it kind of feels like for all this we're all in talk in Dallas. Yeah. So here's the list of what they've done as of last night here. So I don't think they've done anything at 5 o'clock in the morning. They've re-signed a few of their own. They brought back a few of their own. A couple cornerbacks. Their long snapper they brought back. Trent Sieg.
That was a big sign.
Bring that long snapper back. They released Leighton Vander Esch. Did he retire, by the way? He might have retired.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So he's good. But Michael Gallup got
released.
He did, yeah. Good career for Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah.
By my account here, they've signed one free agent, and he's your guy, actually. Linebacker Eric Kendricks reuniting with Mike Zimmer's defense.
Not surprising.
That's it, man. They converted $4 or $5 million of a Dak Prescott roster bonus to a signing bonus to just get a little breathing room with the cap, but they lost their franchise left tackle. They lost Tony Pollard in free agency. I don't know, man. It's hard to look at Dallas right now and say, yep, this is a team that's taking a huge step forward. Like they're going to break through in 2024.
Right.
I think, in fact, here's my hot take. Cowboys fans, put your earmuffs on, okay? I think it's more likely the Cowboys miss the playoffs entirely in 2024 than make a run to the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
That's my hot take, Booney. I don't think you can lose Tyron Smith. I don't think you can lose Tony Pollard. And by the way, like a month ago, I feel like half the team was out on social media. You had like You had like brothers and cousins and different like family members chirping about Dak Prescott on social media. It just feels like weird vibes in Dallas right now.
Very weird vibes. And I agree with you 100%. But I'm not going to say losing Tyron Smith is going to be the be all and end all. And because I will say this, the tackle market's obviously not really big right now because it's such a tackle heavy draft. This is such a good class of tackles coming out that a lot of people are starting to think like, hey, I'm going to have to pay this guy north of 10 to be here, or I'm going to go draft a rookie who's going to be phenomenal for us. Like when you talk about some of these players in this year's draft that are going to coming into this league, they're awesome. Joe, Olu, Felice, Troy Fatnu, Roger Rosengard. Like there's a lot of dudes, Armarius Mims. There is a lot of them, and that's why you're not seeing any of these dudes getting picked up. And that's what I think Dallas is looking at is they're going, hey, we're going to have to draft one, which is fine because they're not bad when it comes to drafting O-linemen. They've actually been really good for a long time. Like they know how to put those pieces together. But I agree. Maybe losing Tony Pollard and not going out and doing anything else is kind of like but it's funny because when you look at what everybody else in that division is doing, like Saquon went to Philly, right? Like they were like, hey, we're going to bolster this up even more. We're going to double down on our run game, which to me was like, holy shit, these guys are for real. Mm-hmm. You put that team on paper right now and you're like, damn, dude, that's a tough team. They were a really good team before. Now you've added a premier beast of a back. But then you talk about what Washington did, and they went out and spent the farm because they're like, we need to retool this entire team. We need to redo this entire thing. And then all of a sudden you talk about the Giants trading for Brian Burns, trying to make these big moves. And then you look at Dallas and you're like, hey, you guys awake? It's live, you know. Free agency happened 48 hours. Like I remember everybody for the first 2 days was like, are they asleep in Dallas? But then again, you stop and you go, maybe they think they have what they have. Maybe they're looking at this going, we don't need to spend. We were a playoff team last year. Yeah, we lose Tyron. We'll draft one. That's fine. Yeah, we lose Tony. We could draft another one. I think that in their mind, Jerry Jones is like, we're good. We have what we need. We got to the playoffs. We just had some unfortunate luck. Quarterback played like shit. He's probably not really thinking that because he loves Dak, but that's the truth. And then all of a sudden you talk about going into the season, and that's when people are like, we probably should have retooled. We probably should have went out and got a little bit more than we did. But
I feel like the Bills are kind of this way. I mean, you can speak to this with those San Francisco teams from 10 years ago. It just kind of feels like when you get an organization like the Cowboys have won 12 games exactly 3 years in a row, 2 division titles. They've been one of the highest scoring offenses, one of the best point differentials. Like if you just look at their regular seasons the last 3 years, dominant.
Oh yeah.
And then they're just early bounce, right? The Buffalo Bills kind of the same way where, man, on paper, regular season, largely dominant. They've been a little further, I feel like, and then they keep running into Patrick Mahomes. That's the other big difference.
So hard, right?
The Cowboys they're not even getting to the Patrick Mahomes stage yet. They're not even getting to the Super Bowl. And those Niners teams, man, like you guys had 13 wins, 11, 12, but you were getting to conference championship, Super Bowl. But when you don't break through and win it after 2, 3, 4 years of being at the top of the division, top of the conference record wise, it just feels like, I don't know if it's resentment, if it's you're pounding your head against that glass ceiling and it doesn't always break through for teams. And that's where I'm at with the Cowboys. It feels like everyone's sort of exhausted by the failures of the wild card round and the divisional round the last 3 years. What's going to be the factor that if Dak Prescott were Patrick Mahomes, I would say don't worry about it. It doesn't. You can lose a left tackle. You can lose. Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill. You know they say goodbye to pieces all the time, but they have Patrick Mahomes. I don't think Dak's on that level. Right. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to make up for your deficiencies. So what is it like when you're banging your head against the ceiling 3-4 years in a row, and you haven't broken through for a Super Bowl? What does it feel like in that locker room? I guess
I think frustration, and a lot of it is kind of that's when guys. I feel like this is where it goes sideways the most. Is when you are at that point and you're like beating your head on this wall, and you're like, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to give more. Maybe I need to do more. And then the minute you start pulling yourself out of position, something bad goes wrong. And you're like, it's just frustrating. When the truth is, it really just comes down to execution. We're just not executing well. And we're not coming out here and all 11 of us aren't winning at the rep. We're not coming out here and playing as a unit. Like There's so many reasons, but guys, in that moment, and it's really hard to tell somebody that it's something else when you're almost dead set on like, I know what this is. And they're like, no, stupid. It's just the execution. Like, we're doing fine. We just need to complete a couple more passes, a couple more third downs, something simple. It's not like this massive problem that we're having. It's just like the flow of the game or whatever it is. But then you just take it for something else, and you're like, I'm almost positive it's this, and you're like fighting each other now, and then it's resentment, like you said, because you're like, well, if they would have just held him that one time, to, or if the punt returner doesn't drop the ball, and you're like, you get really mad. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a terrible thing because it's your best friend that you're talking about, and you get really mad at him, and it's not right. But that's the competition kicking in, and that's your competitive spirit. Like, I'll do anything to win. It's crazy, man. It is crazy. And that's why I agree with you. I think that this team needed a little bit of an overhaul, and instead they were like, we're good. We're going to be fine.
We're good, minus a couple pieces. I will say that there's a pretty big addition that we haven't touched on. I am curious about Mike Zimmer back in the game as a defensive coordinator. As a head coach, we've outlined, you've told some stories, Jay's told some stories. There were some issues toward the end of his Vikings run for sure, but like as a defensive coordinator, now he's been out of the game for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And the game moves pretty fast, but I am curious to see Mike with Micah Parsons, with that secondary, ball hawking secondary. If he's still at the top of his game as a coordinator and he's throwing exotic looks, I don't know if he can just come back with the same double A gap.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what
from
he's
5 years ago, but I'm curious.
No, I mean, he's going to be fine. And that's the one thing is like when you talk about a guy like that, and it's funny because people are like, he has been out of the game. It's like, yeah, but it's not like he hasn't been watching. And it's not like for years he wasn't scheming up people and destroying offenses. Like, it's not hard for him to walk in and go, this is what they do. And that's the one thing that people don't know is like when defense look at us, they're basically like, how are they sliding their protection and what responsibilities do the running backs have? Where we're thinking the exact opposite. Who are their known blitzers and how do they like to bring it? Right? Like all these things become important. So it's not hard to scheme up an offense, but at the same time, you talk about a guy like Mike Zimmer having the ability to have a Micah Parsons. He's always had such great edge rushers. And now I'm not sure, is DeMarcus Lawrence still there?
Let me see.
I got to look that up real quick. I think
this is where we pause the show to Google.
I know, right? I'm almost positive he is.
Yeah.
So you have two great edge rushers, right? What the hell else does Mike Zim need? I mean, you got two guys out there causing problems, and that's why if you're going to go look at Mike, you start going back to look at his film when he had Daniil and Ev, and you start to say, all right, what's he going to bring? You already know he's going to have those two on the same side. He's going to be splitting them at times. He's going to have Micah walking around. There's probably going to be times he's going to have both of them in the A-gaps. We just call that big Cali. So you put the linebackers out at defensive end, and you bring the defensive ends into the A-gaps. And so then it becomes like a condensed look. But at times it throws you off because when you look up and you see two edge rushers standing up in the A-gaps, you're like, what the hell is this? And then you see two linebackers outside, and all of a sudden you forget the rules stay the same. We're just kind of remiking things around. But in that moment for like 5 seconds, you're in a very big panic. And you're like, does everybody know what's going on? Like just simple things like that. Mike's really good at that. He's good at being like, hey, I want you to pick your hand up and move out 6 inches. Because all of a sudden then it's like a whole different look. And you're like, wait a minute. What is this? And you're like, oh, I'm in this. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why he's so good. I don't worry about guys like that. They know how to just press on the pressure points and be like, yeah, you guys suck.
Yeah, dude, it's rough. I will say they also, speaking of sack leaders for the Cowboys, Dorrance Armstrong signed with the Commanders, and he was second on the team in sacks. I think he was second in pressures. So 26 years old.
Dan Quinn was like, hey, bud. You want to come with me and be the guy now? But that's why, like, Washington excites me. Dan Quinn, he's an excitable coach. I played against
number 2 pick. They're going to find a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May at the top of that draft too.
Oh, for sure, dude. It's going to be exciting. This whole draft. It's probably going to be my next mic.
Go. Let's do it.
I mean, the way that this draft is just going to get shaken up is insanity. And it's crazy because when you look at the first 10 spots, maybe like a month ago, just because Justin Fields hadn't moved, Keenan Allen was where he was, like everything was like, oh, this is going to be great. And all of a sudden Keenan gets traded, and then Justin gets traded, and now the entire top 5 looks so different. Like Caleb Williams guaranteed to go 1, and now 2, 3, 4, 5 become very interesting.
I have reached the point, Booney. I've reached the point in what are we? We're still like 5 weeks away from the actual draft,
which is close. It's coming.
I know, but I've reached the point in draft speculation season where I'm following anonymous Twitter accounts. Like I found this account. I'm not even going to say the name of it because I mean, on one hand, this guy is anonymously putting out information from NFL owners. On the other hand, like I don't know how much he's going to keep doing it if a bunch of people follow it, but he's literally like live tweeting golf outings. He works at some like country club in Florida. Yes. And he overhears conversations from NFL owners, and like I'm following like 10 accounts that think they know something. And the word on the streets with the anonymous Twitter accounts, Booney, is that the top 4 picks are set in stone right now.
I believe that.
It's Caleb number 1, and then there's a little doubt on which quarterbacks might go 2 and 3, but that those two, it's either going to be Jaden Daniels or Drake May, and you can flip a coin.
Right.
But that the Cardinals are locked in unless some crazy offer comes in. They think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the draft. So they're going to stand pat, and they need a good, cheap, young wide receiver. But that your guy, Jim Harbaugh, holds the keys to the rest of the draft at number 5.
I know, dude. And that's where it's interesting. Because pre-trading Keenan Allen, it was kind of like, man, this could be a lot of different things. This could be a tackle. This could be a wide receiver. This could be something. Now that you get rid of Keenan Allen, it's like, I know, definitely going receiver. We're definitely going to go find something on the outside. We need help there. But then all of a sudden, the Giants are at 6, and then you talk about the Titans at 7. Like, that's where people are going to be like, hey, we might be willing to trade back a little bit. Who's willing to trade up here for something important? And honestly, I think it's going to be the Vikings. I think the Vikings trade into the top 5. I think that last week, they went out, and I don't know how quiet I could say this was, but they kind of got some more. They went out and got some more equity. And they were like, hey, who wants to trade us another first-round pick? Because we all know that if you're trying to trade into the top 5, you better be offering 2 first rounds.
Yeah.
Like, we all know they're coming in, and we all know why. And that's what I think is important. Jay's not here to defend himself, so I'm not going to get this fight started. I don't think there is a problem over at the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think Kwesi and KOC are at all on different pages. I think they went together and were like, this is what we offer Kirk. If he says no, it's fine. We move on. He said no, and they're like, great, this is business. Move on. Now they're like, okay, we got to trade into the top 5, which is not a hard thing to do now that they have 2 first rounders. You might have to offer a 3rd for next year. But at the same time, this is you selling the farm, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, to go up and prove that you get your guy that you want. And you got to know that you're going up there for a guy that you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go into the 5, you better be 100% sure you know what you're doing. Like, hey, well, this is our guy. And you have to, that's all you have to say, is everybody just has to be on the same page. Hey, this is our guy, and this is why. Boom. Done.
And speaking of Jay not being able to defend himself, all right, here. So my next mic is Kwesi. Let's stay at this. It's funny because we all have Vikings ties. You played for the Vikings. Jay played for the Vikings. I host a Vikings podcast, Purple Daily. You're on that podcast, but this is not a Vikings podcast. This is a National Football League podcast. It's a football.
They're just doing a lot of things right now. They're irrelevant to what's going on. They're going to be a massive player in this draft.
They are, dude. They're kind of the central figure of all of this. Like, they were the central figure in free agency. Are they going to bring Kirk back? Are they not? And now they're kind of the central figure that everyone's looking. Are they going to be the one that moves up to 3 to 5? And I'll come back to the Jeremiah not being able to defend himself thing in a second. But on Kwesi, here's why he's my mic. He has had a wild week, dude. It's been 8 days, and in those 8 days, he finally drew a line in the sand on Kirk Cousins, the greatest negotiator in the history of organized team professional sports, at least in North America. Can't speak for the English Premier League. I'm sure there's some great negotiators with it.
That shit's insane over there. $1 billion.
There's no salary caps over there. It's wild. He says goodbye to Danielle Hunter, too.
That was
29-year-old, led the NFL in TFLs. What do you have? 14 and a half, 15 sacks last year.
15, yeah.
And not even really a peep in terms of Like with Kirk for a month, all you heard was two sides are talking. They're talking. Like, I think, like, as far as we can tell, they just said, Daniil, good luck in your future endeavors. We've got a different plan here. He says hello to 3 good young defensive players. Jonathan Grenard comes in from Houston. Basically, Daniil Hunter and Jonathan Grenard swap situations, right? Mm-hmm. You bring in Andrew Van Ginkel, really good edge rusher, jack of all trades in Miami. Blake Cashman, former
EP
Golden
football.
Gopher.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yep. Coming back home. They say hello to Aaron Jones to upgrade their running back situation. Sam Darnold, kind of controversial. A lot of people looking at him as, he was a top 10 pick bust.
We're going to go back to that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Keep going.
It's interesting in that Kyle Shanahan liked him enough to bring him in last year, and now Kevin O'Connell, the Shanahan-McVay system quarterback, seem to like him.
Yeah.
And then they trade for the extra first-round pick to get the extra ammunition. Kwesi has been cooking, dude, for the last week here. Yeah. And I think on the inner turmoil report that you're talking about, that Mike Florio put it out, that there's a schism, there's a disagreement in the Vikings practice facility in there. I do think Kevin O'Connell wanted Kirk Cousins back. I think Kwesi's been pretty 50-50 on this for like maybe the last year and a half. He's never really come out and said, we kneel at the gospel of Kirk Cousins. Like, he's always kind of said, if the price works, if the contract works, we'd like him back. We think we can win with him, but whatever. But I think even if there was a little bit of a rift and Kevin O'Connell was devastated when he goes and signs with the Falcons, I think 48 hours later, you take a deep breath, you go look at the 5 or 6 quarterbacks available in the first couple rounds. You're a quarterback guy. You got Josh McCown in here. He coached Drake May in high school. Yep. Dude, they're sending the entire cavalry to go watch J.J. McCarthy do a private workout next week. So I think they're excited inside that building, and I think they've got some really good infrastructure for a young quarterback to come in here. And there's a lot of people painting this as like it's doom and gloom for the Vikings now. They lost Kirk Cousins. I think the future is as bright as it's been in a long time over there for the Vikings.
Absolutely. Dude, I agree with you 100%. Now, I will say this to Kwesi. At some point, we have to shore up this contract with JJ. Like, give him the 35. It's clearly what he wants. He wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback, dude. Whatever you want, I'll pay you.
So you do that. You don't.
There's no question, because he is the best in the league right now at getting it done. Contested catches, routes running, ability to just turn on the jets and gone. Fuck out of here, dude. Pay that dude. That's the only issue I have right now. I love it. You drew a line in the sand, and people don't get this, but there's a massive business behind that curtain. And as soon as you go behind the curtain, it's real people writing real checks, getting audited every year going, yeah, we just can't afford that. Like, love you, would do anything for you. Just can't write that fucking check right now because we're writing one to JJ that's even bigger than yours. Like, don't know what you're trying to tell us right now. Like, just can't pay for both you guys. We love you. We just can't do it. And that's why when you talk about this, you're like, okay, you did that. I'm really proud of you for doing that. You're right. The fan base was upset, but you had to do what you had to do. Now you turn around and go, JJ, here's 35. I know you want to be the highest non-paid quarterback. Here's your $35 million a year. And then you turn around and you get into the top 5 and you go, we know who we want. Boom. Shut it down. Now this is going to drive Jay nuts because it might be JJ McCarthy.
Dude, and it's likely to be JJ McCarthy.
I know when you talk about the first, because the first 3 people are not trading out. The first 3 people are like, nope, we're dead set on quarterbacks too. We're going all in.
I think you could get the Patriots out of that spot.
I don't think you could.
It'd have to be a Godfather offer, though. It would have to be your 2 first-round picks and probably your 2025 first-round pick, maybe something else.
I don't even think they do that. New coach. They're not going to be like, hey, Gerard, we're going to let you come in and fail miserably the first year. They're going to be like, dude, we'll give you whatever you want. They've already went out and spent, like the 3rd most in free agency. We've talked about this. When you go from like a team that doesn't spend money for years and years and years, and eventually they come in with a new regime, they're like, blow the doors off it. Just go crazy. And at the same time, I don't see them being like, yeah, sure, we'll trade out and lose up on one of the top quarterbacks to suck this year and wait till next year. Like, the Patriot fans won't put up with that shit. The owner won't put up with it. They're probably, the first 3 are probably like, we're not moving. But 4, you could get 4 to move a little bit. But then again, how dead set are they on getting
5.
Marvin Harris? I think it's 5 too.
I think it's your guy, man. I think it's Jim. Because you could,
I think it is too.
you can,
I
there's
don't know
so
that
many
he
things. The
dropped far,
Chargers
though.
need a bunch of stuff, man. The Chargers
I
need
know.
weapons, but they could also use an offensive lineman. So you move back from 5 to 11. If you're the Vikings, I don't know. I think it's to go from 11 to 5, and it depends on if there's 3 other teams creating a bidding war market. It's the 11, it's the 23. By the way, the Vikings, based on losing Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter, it looks like the comp pick formula for 2025 is giving the Vikings 2 additional third-round picks. So the Vikings have, in 2025, the Vikings have a first and 3 thirds if they get the 2 third-round comp picks.
Right.
They could say, all right, we'll give you Chargers. We'll give you the 11, the 23, and we'll give you 2 third-round picks in 2025. And you'd still have in 2025, you'd have a first and a third if you're the Vikings, and J.J. McCarthy, which again, Jay's head's going to explode. I think Jay's wrong, and I'm excited to fight him on J.J. McCarthy when he comes back.
Well, the problem is this. I just looked at the order. 5 to 11 is a big drop, dude. And if you're going for a receiver, you're going to be like, hey, that could be the difference between receiver number 1 and receiver number 3. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I know. I think there's a better chance you get. I don't know, man. That's why this whole thing got just shaken up.
If the Cardinals take Marvin Harrison Jr., then you're the Chargers and you really want a wide receiver. You have to figure out, can you get Neighbors or a Dunze at 11? Or it's also a deep wide receiver class.
It is.
Like, there's a good second tier of wide receivers. Would it be better? Because, dude, they've been in cap hell. They
have.
I think it's going to take like 2 or 3 years of patience for the Chargers to sort of climb back up, especially in that division. But there's other things they could go for. It's super interesting, though. Because if you're the Vikings, you don't make that first trade unless you have a second trade sort of in your back pocket, right?
200%. You're not trading.
Don't you probably talk to Jim and the Chargers front office first before you make that first trade? Hey, if we do this, is that enough? If we need to sit there and talk to you on draft day,
I think what you do is you for sure call the Chargers and go, hey, what's it going to take to move off of 5? And if they're like, hey, 2 this year and 1 next year, and you're like, done.
Yeah.
But you get the quarterback you want. And if it's J.J. McCarthy, I swear to God, Jay's going to lose his shit.
He better get in line, man. He better fall in line.
I'm going to die. And it's funny, though, because his whole thing, and I agree with this, is here's a quarterback who had 2 NFL running backs with him his senior year. So it's kind of like, dude, you've been given a lot. What's going to happen when you don't have that force behind you, or you don't have a badass offensive line?
C.J. Stroud played.
I agree.
Joe Burrow played on the greatest offense in college football history.
I agree, dude. I'm just saying, it's just the way that sometimes people see it. I see it too. Sometimes you get a little nervous. You're like, this guy's potential is through the roof, and you're like, boy, I've been burned on that word before. I've been burned a lot, and that just.
But what does it mean for you? Your guy Jim Harbaugh came out, and I get that he's going to pump the tires of his college players.
And that's where you have to know that he might just be pumping the tires, and we don't.
He could have pumped. There's 2 ways to pump a guy's tires. Oh, love that guy. Yep, he's going to be an asset to any team. That there's that level of praise,
right?
But then there's the level he went to, which is he didn't have to say it like this. He said a month and a half ago, by the time this process is over, and when he said this, J.J. McCarthy was being mocked by the mock draft community, the Mel Kipers of the world, all these, right? As like a late first, early second round pick. So the world thought that of J.J. McCarthy. And Jim Harbaugh comes in and says, by the end of this process, he will be regarded as the number 1 quarterback in this class. Now, Caleb Williams is probably going to go number 1, so he's not going to be 100% right on that. But, dude, he's going to be a top 5 pick, almost certainly.
He jumped up big time.
What does it mean that you know Jim better than anyone? Like, does Jim's opinion of J.J. McCarthy matter to you? Does it sway you at all on him?
Are you kidding me? I just don't believe what I hear in the media. If I were to call Jim and Jim were like, hey, man, this dude is literally the 3rd best quarterback in this draft, I'd be like, I'd take your word for it 100%. I know how Jim is with quarterbacks, and I know how good he is with them, too. He's like this little whisperer, gives them this confidence of like, yeah, who cares what people are thinking? All you need to know, kiddo, is what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is you're a rock star. And you're kind of like, they just, okay, you're right, I am. But if Jim called me and was like, hey, dude, this dude is legit number 3, trust me. I'd be like, I got you 100%. It's just sometimes you have to wait and see. And I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like the Vikings. They're so scared to get burned again on a top pick on a quarterback that they're like, we just don't know. It's the same thing with us. We're all like, yeah, this guy could be great, or he could need a lot of weapons around him to be great. Which one is it? And that's a massive difference, right? Like that's a huge difference in this league. Can a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, can they do it by themselves and be like, just get me whoever out there, listen, run the stick, run it tight? Or do you need someone who's the exact opposite, that you need to put a ton of pieces and parts around and be like, hey, now you go out and thrive, right? Like,
but dude, the beauty of that, you're 100% right. But the beauty of what you just said is you don't really have to make a decision on if he's the franchise carrier quarterback for like 5 years, because to me that's a decision you have. That's a decision you make when it's time to pay a guy $50 or $60 million or whatever it's going to cost in 5 years. Any quarterback that the Vikings draft right now is going to have the best infrastructure of any team looking for a quarterback. Like if you took all the teams looking to draft a quarterback this year, none of them have the left tackle, right tackle combo that the Vikings have. Dude, you have one of the best left tackles in the league protecting.
I didn't know we were talking
side.
about O-lines. I thought we were talking about pieces around us, because I'm like, man, Chicago Chicago did go do some things now. They
agreed.
Swift, they have DJ Moore, they have Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet. They went out and got Gerald Everett. Dude, they went out and took care of some shit. They were like, we're sick of being the laughing stock of this division. And that's why, like, I get what they're doing. And plus they have a ton of money. They're like, hey, we got the money to do it. Let's go have fun. And we have the first pick. We're gonna have a rookie quarterback. This is gonna be great. But it's just the whole ability of, especially for players that have been behind the curtain. Sometimes you see guys and you're like, man, this guy looks great. And then we draft him and you're like, this guy fucking sucks. Why? Because it was all just a big show. How good could he be? Some idiot on TV like, this guy's gonna be great. Dumbass, you don't fucking know. You don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. I swear to God, I saw so many things about people. We drafted them and it was like, boy, they lied. They had no idea, did they? They have no
Great
fucking
agent.
clue. That's exactly why we get nervous sometimes. I get it if you're the guy that's running around and slinging it 400 yards, putting up 500 yards a game. I get that. You can do some things. You are talented. But when all of a sudden people are like, yeah, but this guy had 2 NFL running backs behind him, one of the stoutest O-lines. Like, what happens when he goes somewhere that doesn't have that? What happens when he goes somewhere that's the complete opposite of that? Is he going to thrive? And my thing would be, you make your opinion on a franchise quarterback when you draft him in the top 5. Because when it doesn't go right, you're Chicago, and you're quickly trying to backpedal out and go, it just wasn't our guy. By the way, a month ago, everybody on that team was like, this is our guy. The president, the GM, like, that's why it's like, if you're making that decision to jump into the top 5 to go for somebody, you've nailed him as your franchise, where this is what we're going to build it around. This guy right here, everybody has to be all in. That's why it's a big decision. And that is one of the ones.
You're right. I agree. I still, by the way, on the infrastructure, the Bears are in a better spot than they were a few years ago.
I see what you're saying. The Vikings are great too, right?
But the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get to some dumb football questions here. We also have some film breakdowns we're going to dive into on the YouTube channel this week. So definitely keep your eye on the O-line Committee YouTube channel. But I feel like it's being painted as, for the Vikings and for other teams, but specifically for the Vikings, that, boy, it was a risk to move off Cousins and go into the unknown of drafting someone, just like it's a risk now. Oh my gosh, if you draft McCarthy higher up, then maybe he should, or Drake May could be. It's all being painted as risk. To me, the risk is sitting on a guy like Kirk Cousins at $40 or $45 million a year, knowing that you cannot win a Super Bowl constructing your roster around him and not moving off of it. Like, that would have been, the risk would have been not doing what they're doing. Right now, of course, there's risk. Everyone wants certainty, Booney, in football. Everyone wants, it's not a sure thing. Nothing's a sure thing. People only talk about quarterbacks that way. Boy, look at the bust rate for quarterbacks. Well, okay, let's play the same game for left tackles that are drafted. For wide receivers, you want me to show you a list of?
Yeah, it would all.
You want me to show you a list of first-round wide receivers? Oh, it's a little safer to draft.
Scrutiny. We agree. They don't get the scrutiny that these young players get, especially as a first round, especially in the top 5. Like, think about it. If Trey Lance didn't work out and Brock Purdy didn't work out, there'd be some really pissed off people. trading into number 3 to get Trey Lance, and then it completely failed. They just had a safety net in Brock Purdy. And that's why it's like, that's a risky thing to do, but it's the same. I agree with you. We're all saying the same thing. I'm just saying that, to Jay's point, that was his biggest point, was the potential on this kid is different for me because of what the weapons that he had in college and the ability of their offense to just run the shit out of the ball. And it's not to say that there's not 10 NFL teams right now that are built like that, right? Like the Vikings used to be built like that with Dalvin. We're going to run the shit out of the ball. And when you can't handle this, we're going to play action, or we're going to be able to.
It's what the Chargers want to do.
Right. It's what a lot of people want to do. That's why it's kind of like, yeah, I could see this kid being great, but that's where some people go, but what if he doesn't get his running backs? What if he doesn't get the O-line he has? Like,
that's
what
why maybe the Chargers need to trade Justin Herbert to the Vikings, dude, and then they can take JJ McCarthy 5th overall.
What if he actually like said something like crazy like that, outlandish, and then followed through with it with an idea like that? Like, guys, let's move off Justin and let's get JJ.
Do you think that conversation has come up behind the scenes?
No. No. Are you out of your fucking mind, Mackie? Justin Herbert, we're going to move on Justin.
I'm just saying. You could get a
guy that's been slinging it for the last couple of years, really, really sexy. We're going to get rid of him.
Yeah, but you brought in your guy Giro comes in as the offensive coordinator, and Jim Harbaugh. Look at their track record together. They're going to rank like 31st in pass attempts
for sure.
If history's any indication, why would you pay Justin Herbert $50 million a year to not throw the football? Something's got to give there. You either have to lean more into passing than you did 10 years ago.
Okay. They will. They're very smart, especially Giro, of going, what are our strengths? Let's do that. And I love how you get Gus the Bus. So now you're going to be cramming these A-gap whams and these A-gap traps and these A-gap whacks and these crunch when you get an over front. Right, dude, we'll drop crunch one day. Your mind will be fucking blown. I saw it for the first time and I was like, is that 3 traps? And they were like, yeah, it is. Delaney's starting it off. And I was like, they used to send Delaney in motion and you wouldn't block the 3 technique and he'd come out of nowhere and he would murder somebody. And the 3 technique was so mad because he would be coming like busting through and Delaney out of nowhere would put his head down and just murder this dude. And then it was just, you talk about doing that, but then having Justin Herbert in the backfield, they're going to have to be like, hey, we're going to be throwing it a little bit more than normal. So let's make these run games even more important. First down is going to be so critical for them that second down is going to be so fun. If you can get to 2nd and 6 and 5, dude, all of a sudden it's going to be, are they running it or is this a play action? Like it's going to be, I know.
Talk dirty.
I'm excited. I'm getting real excited.
Dirty, dude. Let's do some dumb football questions here, Booney, to close this podcast. By the way, we saw this review on the Apple O-line committee page here. We asked you guys to give us your favorite random offensive lineman in your football viewing lives. And Alamo Wynn chimes in with a 5-star rating on Apple. Thank you. Says, love the pod. Keep it up with the dumb football questions. Shout out to Vlad Dukas, as Teddy Bridgewater once said.
I remember Vlad.
As Teddy once said, it's Vlad's team just as much as it's my team. There's also a play from 2018 against the Packers where Mike Remmers for the Vikings thinks it's a screen when it's a drop back pass. He slaps the back of the D tackle and Kirk gets sacked. One of the funniest plays I always remember. I don't remember that one, but that's hilarious.
I don't either. But I played with Remmers. I didn't play with Vlad, but I knew Vlad. Shout out to the most random O-lineman we've ever heard of. I love it.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to throw in one there?
No. You can, the audience, as you give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify, in the comment that you can give us, send us your favorite random offensive lineman, and we will read them on the show here.
I can't wait to hear a name that I haven't heard in years, like years and years and years, like Steiny. Remember Eric Steinbach?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to hear some names that, dude, there were so many guys that we used to just mess around with. I'm so excited.
I want to see some random ones too.
I do too.
I want to see, make our heads explode.
Here we go.
Let's see here. Laptop 6159 chimes in. It feels like an AI bot asking a question here. Can you break down why or what the different reasons are that highly touted can't miss first round prospects don't work out. The hit rate seems to be less than 50% of first rounders getting a second contract from the team that drafted them. Also, I want to say it's like an average of maybe 10 to 12 players out of 32 in the first round every year wind up ever making a Pro Bowl.
Right.
So what are like the various general reasons why a can't miss top prospect first round grade whiffs in the NFL?
I think very rarely does it ever have to do with speed or power. I think a lot of it is more mental. And it's the one thing that we always push in the gym that guys can never understand. Like, no matter how many times I tell them, I'm like, listen, this might seem really easy. Like, we do a lot of drills every day. We're always trying to push through something. We're trying to get them to think about something. In the beginning, it's very different for them, but they get a good grasp of it early because we keep it simple, right? Like, we just go over the simple basics of how to play O-line, and they're like, oh, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now we're more into the advanced shit. And now they're like, I get why this is so hard. I go, yeah, you get why it's hard, right? It's easy when I look up and I go, I'm just going to block him. It's harder when I go, I have to block him. But if he comes, I have to see him and I have to squeeze in. And if he comes, I have to completely close this gap. But by the way, don't forget, this is Aaron Donald standing here. Go ahead. Go fucking block him now. Go do it. But you have to see everybody else coming. Like, that's why this is so hard. And once you start opening their eyes to this, they go, I get it. I get why this is hard. And I go, and you see now defenses are smart. And they know that on this play, the tackle has to read this guy. And that's why they're moving him over 6 more inches, because now they have to look inside 6 more inches, which really puts stress on you. And then he's going to hit that backside A gap. So you got to close everything down. Like, it's going to be really difficult. But, oh, by the way, to your left, about 4 yards out there, standing in a motorcycle stance, ready to fucking piss all over your face, is Von Miller. I'm sorry. Good luck. Go have fun. Oh, it's not fun anymore? Not fun. That's why they fail, because they don't understand that it's not college. It's not just you going out and being fucking special. You're not special anymore, dude. You're part of a unit that is extremely special. You suck. You alone can do nothing. You with the 10 of us, now we're fucking dangerous. We are like, a force. It's crazy.
It feels like, and we've been doing this for 10 months, and you and Jay have sort of welcomed in the outsider who's never come close to playing in a meaningful football game in his life. And so I've been able to learn so much the last 9-10 months. And I would say, I'll even answer this dumb question, especially for offensive line play. It's a combination of the most complicated chess game you've ever had to be thrown into, in terms of what are they across the line of scrimmage trying to do to us? What play are we running? Also, like, what play are we running? What play are we checking to? What, there's all this just mental warfare that you have to figure out. And also, you're trying to prevent a 6'4", 305-pound monster from splitting the A gap and killing your quarterback, right? It's like, here's the mental warfare, the chess game. Oh, and also you're in an octagon. It's a UFC fight or something.
So fun. I know.
58 times a game.
It's addicting. It is so fucking addicting. And then not only that, but then there's the other part of, like, there are times where people are meant to pull you out of position. Like, so like then as we continue to get more advanced, we'll start to work on, okay, now we're setting a twist and you don't see the twister coming. And all of a sudden he's going to pick you. Like, how do we not have that happen? Like, there's so many things that these guys have to think about. And then on top of it, you're like, oh, hey, by the way, go have fun. Go have fun, silly. And you only have 30 seconds to figure out what's going on every time. And that's if you break the huddle at the perfect time. Like, if you at all get stuck in that huddle, you're going to be rushed. And all of a sudden people are going to be talking faster and louder. And all of a sudden it gets crazy. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, what's the count? What's the count? Ah, God damn it. Dude, no bullshit. I was talking to Goody the other day. He's the Goody, John Goodwin. He is the assistant quarterbacks coach for your Los Angeles Chargers. And we were talking at the combine and he was laughing because he was like, you remember how many times you guys used to ask check count? And I would just get so mad. And I was like, yeah. He was like, I swear to God, you and Mike asked every single play. And so the defense always knew what the snap count was, because we'd always be like, because there was so much. There was so much going on. You had to know the play, the kill, the alert, and you had to come up, ID this, sign me the mic. And then all of a sudden you'd be like, shit, did he say on one? God.
Right.
99% of the time, check count was Monday. And everybody would just laugh because they'd be like, Monday means it's on 1, right? Monday's the first day of the week. Tuesday meant it was on 2. Wednesday meant it was on 3. So you'd be like, yo, check count. Monday, stupid. And all of a sudden the nose tag will be like, you'd be like, fuck, I asked a question for nothing. Like, it's just, I'm telling you, it's a lot. And that's why the young players, they just don't get it. And then on top of that, you have to have the perfect technique. So coaches are constantly trying to drill this perfect technique into them. And then at the same time, you have to learn a whole new offense and all these new code words. And you're meeting a whole new team and you're really stressed out and you're stepping on everyone's foot and they're getting madder by the day. Like it's a culmination of the perfect storm. And if you can get out of it your rookie year and make it on a team, you'll be fine. Because everybody will always say that. They'll be like, as a rookie, he made it. He must be mentally tough. But if you can't make it out as a rookie, it becomes hard.
Yeah. Actually, I have a follow-up dumb football question from all this. Like the mental cluster as you're going from huddle to line of scrimmage. Okay, here's our play, but here's what we're checking to if we get this look. And oh my God, what's the snap count? And 8, 7, 6, right? What is the number one reason for a delay of game? Like if there was a pie chart of main reasons why a delay of game, communication. 100%.
Either the play got in
who
late.
To who? Okay.
It could be a multitude of people. It could be the play got in late. It could be that. And if that's really the biggest one. Play got in late. We didn't have enough time to get up and ID what we're doing. We don't ever want to run a bad play if we don't have to, because that could be a problem. A loss of yardage, could be a sack. Bad things happen. That, or when you get to the line, the motions and shifts take too long, or people line up in the wrong spot. You see that a lot with quarterbacks. Like, hey, you're over here. And then it's same thing. Communication. We communicated it. You didn't hear it. What's going on? Or you heard something else. Like it's a lot of times. And I know that when we played a lot with the Niners, a lot of it was because they were so like, we need the perfect play. And they would call play in and it would be so late that they'd be like, Dad, just burn a timeout.
Oh, that's one of my biggest football pet peeves.
I agree with you.
That having 40 seconds at the end of a game, because you can stop the clock, is so much. Now it depends. There's some situations where if you're on the fringe of field goal range or something, you can't take the 5 yards, so you should call a timeout maybe, right? But these coaches where, dude, it's halfway through the first quarter and it's third down and 9 and you're about to get a delay or you don't like the look and you call timeout. It's like, dude, no.
That I agree with. But there were times where you would be, and at times we'd be in the huddle like, hey, what's the call? And he'd be like, hang on to the edge. Listening. And you could hear like, he'd be like, what's going on? They'd be like, they're going back and forth. They don't know what play they're doing. They want to do this. He wants to do this. He wants to do this. I was like, oh man, could you imagine the offensive mind in that moment, in that headset? Like you had Chief Christ, you had Mike Solari, you had Greg Roman, you had Tom Rathman, you had Jim Harbaugh. Like you had some dudes that did some things, played on some teams and were some gurus. I can't imagine when they're like, hey, it's 3rd and 1. What does everyone want to run? It's probably like 10 people saying 10 different things. And you're like, shit. Everybody calm down. Like we knew
12,
at times.
11, 10, we were 9.
Like, just burn it. Burn it. Burn it. They're not going to figure it out.
It's wild, man.
They loved us though.
So those are your dumb football questions here for the week.
Dude, I need
sending them in.
After that. That was incredible.
I do too, man. That was just absolute.
And I feel like we're not going to get canceled. That's a big thing. Jay, you'd be proud of us. I wonder if he's going to listen to this.
By the way, Jay, once again, you're going to get the ding for missing an episode for any reason whatsoever.
You missed dumb football questions, dude. That's another ding.
Another ding. Yeah, missing dumb football questions.
Easy with the false spell, dude. By the way, we don't have a ledger. So you're going to have to remember all this.
I will. I'm writing them down. Got the fine. I got the steak and I got the steak and a beer bet.
Oh, he definitely owes us a steak and a beer for this shit too. Yeah, I'm going to pro days. Okay,
guy. All right.
Okay, guy.
That's a self suck there too. I go to pro days.
You know what? Hit him with the sensitive because right now he's got palms up somewhere.
Oh man. All right, that's a wrap on the O-line committee here. Once again, if you could help us inch closer to 20,000 YouTube subs, hit that like button and the subscribe button and tell a couple football loving friends about the O-line committee. I'm Phil Mackey. That's the Rhino Alex Boone. Our guy Jeremiah Sirles will be back in the fold next week here. See you guys.